There's a particular kind of frustration that arrives in your mid-30s and 40s. You're capable, responsible, and busy, yet a private voice keeps saying, "I'm meant for more." The mind answers back with a tidy story. Later. When the kids are older, when the market changes, when I finally have time. The story seems compassionate, but look closely. It builds a wall between you and the next true move. The wall is not brick and mortar. It's thought. Thought is a brilliant tool that can also impersonate the world. It sketches hypotheses and then forgets they were sketches. A rough estimate becomes a verdict. A protective caution becomes a permanent identity. The illusion strengthens. Each time you behave as if the sketch is a fact. You don't call the potential client because the market is cold. You don't take the class because I'm not the kind of person who... The wall thickens, not because reality blocks you, but because your feet obey a diagram. Here's the shift. Turn your attention from the content of thought to the activity of thought. Don't argue with your ideas. Notice how they arise. Tighten, claim certainty, and steer your body. When a limiting belief appears, label it gently. That's a protective sketch. Feel the nervous system contract. Sense the breath shorten. Observe how the image in your mind narrows the field of possibility. This is not self-criticism. It's perception. Now ask one question that thought rarely asks itself. What would I do in the next 10 minutes if this gap were not true? Not tomorrow, not next year. 10 minutes. You'll notice the answer is usually simple. Send an email. Make a list of 5 prospects. Block 1 hour next week. Order the certification book. Draft a paragraph. The invisible wall can't stop a concrete motion. It can only stop a person hypnotized by it. For a week, keep a wall log. Each time you catch the mind converting a sketch into a verdict, write 1 sentence about it and take 1 tiny step anyway. You're not fighting your thinking. You're refusing to worship it. After several days, something changes. The wall still talks, but you don't confuse its voice with reality. You act through it like walking through fog. Then you look back and realize the gap was a persuasive picture drawn by a process you can now see. Once seen, it loses authority. The first step is not to conquer fear. The first step is to recognize the artist drawing the fear and set your feet moving anyway. The second trap is fragmentation. The sense that life is split into rival parts, career versus family, ambition versus health, service versus income. Fragmented thinking breeds false choices, and false choices breed paralysis. You tell yourself, if I go for the promotion, I'll sacrifice my kids, or if I start the side business, my health will fall apart. The brain treats these as laws, not guesses, and the dream gets deferred in the name of duty. Wholeness thinking doesn't deny limits, it organizes them. Instead of either or, it asks, what configuration honors what matters most of the time? That question unlocks design. You start to design weeks, not fantasize about years. You design agreements with your spouse, not silently resent them. You design energy rhythms, deep work early, family time mid-evening, recovery on Fridays, so the pieces reinforce each other. Try this. Draw 3 concentric circles. In the center, write your non-negotiables to people and practices that must be honored. Marriage check-ins, workouts, faith, sleep. In the next ring, write your high-leverage work, the specific actions that move your dream calls, prototypes, content, client value. In the outer ring, write your optional goodies, valuable but not vital tasks, perfect branding, fancy tools, extra meetings. Commit to living from the center outward. Most people invert the rings. They spend days in the optional layer and collapse by night, telling themselves they had no time for the center. In truth, the order was backward. Next, translate either or narratives into and also experiments. I can be present with my kids and build my practice by scheduling 2 focused 75-minute sprints while they're at soccer and using a shared family calendar so no one's surprised. When you name the "by," the "and" also stops being a slogan and becomes architecture. Here's what happens over several weeks as the pieces of your life begin to support, not compete. Your nervous system relaxes. You stop living in chronic apologizing to your family for working and to your dream for parenting. The relief is immense. Energy previously spent refereeing imaginary conflicts returns as creative capacity. You gain proof that wholeness produces more value for everyone involved. The child sees a parent both present and alive. The partner sees commitments kept without martyrdom. Your clients feel your clarity. A whole life is not a perfect balance. It's a living symmetry that gets tuned daily. The shift from fragment to whole collapses the gap because the dream is no longer postponed until some mythical season. It is woven today into the fabric of how you move through a Tuesday. No part of you needs to be exiled for the rest to thrive. That's not a compromise, it's coherence. Proprioception is your body's quiet genius. You know where your hand is without looking. You can cultivate a similar sense for thinking itself. Most of us don't notice thoughts. We look through them as if they were windows instead of lenses. When you develop mind proprioception, you feel the tilt in the lens before it distorts. Your world begin with a 60-second practice 3 times a day. Close your eyes without changing anything. Feel the movement of thought. Is it racing or sluggish? Expansive or narrow? Catastrophizing or daydreaming? Don't analyze content. Register texture. Then scan your body: jaw, throat, chest, belly. Where's thought pulling the strings? Often you'll discover a tight throat when you're preparing to perform, or a clenched belly when anticipating judgment. Name it softly: tight throat, performing thought. In naming the pattern, you extract yourself from it. Now apply this in real situations. You're about to pitch. The old pattern says, make them like you. Mind proprioception notices the urge to speak faster, to over-explain. You pause for one breath, feel your feet, and choose a different first sentence, a question that invites their world into the room, or your scrolling headlines. The pattern magnifies fear and shrinks agency. You notice the contraction? Set a 10-minute timer and do one concrete action for your dream before returning to the feed. In both cases, you didn't battle the mind, you adjusted the mind's posture. Why this matters for adults 35 is simple. Your patterns are efficient. They've been rehearsed thousands of times. Efficiency is useful for driving a car. It's lethal for living a new life. Proprioception interrupts automaticity without drama. It gives you a half-second of freedom before the habit fires. In that half-second, you can choose the smallest move that belongs to the future you're building. Keep a pattern map for 2 weeks. Columns: trigger, body sensation, thought texture, automatic move, chosen move, result. You'll watch your inner system become legible. Once it's legible, it's adjustable. A client of mine noticed that every time she saw a leader she admired, her shoulders collapsed and she deferred. With proprioception, she caught the collapse at the door, reset her posture, and asked one crisp question. Over months, that question asked again and again repositioned her inside the organization. No fireworks, just precise adjustments made visible by a new sense. The gap shrinks when you can feel thought forming and redirect it toward coherent action. You reclaim authorship of your next 5 minutes. You won't always choose perfectly, but you will choose consciously, and that changes the arc of your days. Most people defend their beliefs as if beliefs were bones. But a belief is a working model. Defending locks the model. Suspending hangs it on a hook where you and others can examine it. Clean attention is the attitude that allows suspension. You don't attack or idolize your idea. You look at it, try. This with a stubborn story like, I'm too late. Write the belief on a page. Beneath it, write 3 columns. Evidence for, evidence against, fresh possibility. Spend 2 minutes each. In 4, be honest, yes, you've delayed. In. Against, be equally honest today. You have more network, skill, and maturity. In fresh possibility. Propose a move that would be true if the too late story were false partner with a younger marketer. Launch a pilot to existing clients, repurpose 10 years of notes into a weekly newsletter. This exercise doesn't erase the past. It releases attention from defending the past. Bring this stance into conversations. With your spouse, suspend the quiet assumption that they won't support this. Say aloud, here's what I'm assuming, can we test? It often, their actual response is more nuanced than the one your mind predicted. With colleagues, suspend the idea that there's no budget. Ask, if we had to do this within current constraints, what's the smallest pilot we'd bet on? Clean attention bridges people, and bridges move projects. Defending is noisy. Suspension is quiet. In quiet, new meaning appears. Meaning is not just in your head. It lives in relationships, markets, and timing. Clean attention lets you perceive meaning where defensiveness perceives threat. You begin making decisions that fit the living pattern of your life now, a younger version of you or a fantasy of perfection. Set a 7-day suspend alarm. Choose 2 moments daily of family interaction and a work interaction, where you will deliberately suspend your top assumption for 60 seconds. Ask 1 clarifying question instead of delivering 1 rehearsed. Speech, record the outcomes. You'll discover that the world becomes more cooperative the moment you stop arguing with a script you authored in private. The gap collapses as you move from a courtroom to a laboratory. In a courtroom, the verdict comes first and evidence is twisted to fit. In a laboratory, evidence comes first and models evolve with it. Make your mind a lab and your life a string of experiments. That's clean attention in motion. Asterisk, there's a difference between motion and movement. Motion is activity for its own sake. Movement is action organized by meaning. When the meaning is coherent, the smallest action is pregnant with direction. You stop asking, how do I force motivation? And start asking, what matters here, and what single action expresses it today? Define the core meaning of your dream in 1 sentence that a wise 10-year-old could understand. I help busy parents reclaim their energy so they can enjoy their kids and careers. I build software that saves small clinics hours so nurses can spend time with patients. I create restorations that make older homes safe and beautiful. Read it aloud daily. If it sounds like marketing fluff, rewrite it until it feels like skin. Not costume, now translate meaning into active information structures that quietly steer your day. Samples. A weekly value block where you deliver 1 piece of essential value to your audience or clients. A relationship loop where you rotate outreach to 10 key people. A learning lane where you invest 90 minutes in skill expansion. These aren't goals. They're carriers of meaning. When they run, your dream advances whether or not you feel heroic. Guard against counterfeit meaning. Counterfeit meaning is approval, chasing, or fear avoidance dressed up as purpose. The test is simple. After you complete a task, do you feel inward? Alignment and expanding options, or relief and shrinking options? Alignment and expansion signal true meaning. Relief and shrinking options reveal that you acted to quiet anxiety. It's not to move the work. For 35 adults, meaning has a specific flavor. Contribution plus aliveness. You've seen enough to know that status is a thin meal. You want your days to matter and feel good to live. Let that clarity be your compass. Before you accept a project, ask, does this increase contribution and aliveness? If it's not a double yes, redesign it until it is, or say no. Finally, let meaning decide the next right scale. If your dream's meaning is intimate, start with one-to-one pilot clients before broadcasting. If it's communal, design small gatherings before scaling content. When the scale fits the meaning, friction drops, learning accelerates, and confidence compounds. You're not waiting for passion to strike. You're letting meaning structure motion into movement. That is the quiet engine of unstoppable progress. Grand gestures are dramatic and fragile. Microbridges are humble and durable. A microbridge is a repeatable action that moves you one reliable unit closer to your outcome. Build enough of them, and the other shore stops looking distant. Start with one reliable unit. If your dream is a consulting practice earning $10,000 a month, a reliable unit might be one paid diagnostic at $500. If your dream is a book, a reliable unit might be one publishable page per weekday. If your dream is vitality, a reliable unit might be a 30-minute walk after dinner. Notice how each unit is specific, scheduled, and small enough to succeed under ordinary life conditions. Now, build the bridge. Define the trigger. Action, reward, tracker. Trigger: after the kids' homework. Action: 45-minute outreach sprint to 5 prospects using a pre-written template and 1 custom line. Reward: check a big green box on the wall calendar and allow 7 minutes of guilt-free scrolling. Tracker: a simple spreadsheet with columns for date outreaches, conversations, conversions, revenue. When the micro-bridge is this clear, discipline becomes lighter because decision fatigue is removed. Expect boredom. Boredom is the mind signal that novelty is gone. It's not a verdict on effectiveness. Treat boredom as a training partner. Refresh the environment, different coffee shop. Keep the protocol. Refresh the playlist, keep the protocol. The goal is not entertainment. The goal is continuity. Consistency outperforms intensity for adults with full lives. Once a month, run a bridge review. Ask what part of the bridge is weak. Trigger: unreliable. Action: too large. Reward: ineffective. Adjust by 10 to 20%, not 200%. Most people, when frustrated, blow up the bridge and start over. You'll do the opposite. Reinforce the structure that already carries you. Add failure-tolerant design. Build 2 microbridges per outcome, so if illness or travel breaks one, the other keeps you moving. Example: if outreach calls are impossible. This week, your alternate bridge is a daily one new case study post. If lifting at the gym is out, your alternate is a 20-minute home circuit. Momentum loves options. When you look up after 90 days, you won't feel like you leaped. You'll feel like you walked across something you built. That feeling quiet, earned confidence is the antidote to the old someday mindset. The gap didn't close because you became a different person overnight. It closed because you behaved like the person you intended to be in small, trackable units. Long enough for the results to become undeniable. Reality speaks in data, emotions, and outcomes. Many of us argue with it. We wish numbers were different, resent the client who didn't renew, ignore the fatigue that signals an overloaded calendar. When you treat reality as a partner, not an adversary, feedback becomes fuel. Install a weekly reality dialogue that takes 30 minutes. 3 pages. What happened? What did it mean? What will I try now? Keep the first page purely descriptive. Calls made, offers sent, sleep averaged, workouts done. Dollars collected, words written. No drama, no self-story. On the second page, write the most generous and the most rigorous interpretation. Generous: I've built momentum and early trust. Rigorous: my close rate is low. My offer is muddy. On the third page, commit to 1 adjustment for 7 days only. Short cycles beat sweeping resolutions. Upgrade your emotional literacy. If the data says outreach is working, but you resist doing it, name the emotion precisely: shame. Fear of visibility, boredom, grief for an earlier career you've outgrown. Emotions are information. Treat them with respect, and they'll release their energy. Shame often dissolves when shared with one trusted person. Fear shrinks when turned into a script and rehearsed aloud. Grief needs a real goodbye. Letter to the version of you that carried you this far. Thank them and close the chapter. Invite outside eyes. Reality is bigger than any one perspective. Form a micro-council of 3-1 peer, one client, one friend who knows your character. Share a concise snapshot monthly and ask 2 questions. What do you see working? Where am I unclear? Accept what lands, set aside what doesn't. Dialogue doesn't mean obeying every opinion. It means letting reality arrive through. More channels than your inner critic, the benefit of this stance is compounding clarity. When you respond to feedback without self-attack, you iterate faster. Offers improve, health stabilizes, relationships deepen. The dream stops being a fragile fantasy and becomes a robust, reality-tested endeavor. That robustness is what the next stage of your life requires, not hype, but a sturdy conversation with what is, week after week. Coherence means you're inner. Commitment shows up identically in your words, your time, and your money. If you say this matters, but your calendar and spending disagree, the body believes the calendar and the bank statement. Incoherence breeds self-doubt. Coherence generates trust first in yourself, then in others. Run the triple check. Speech: audit the way you talk about your dream. Eliminate apology and vague language. Replace "I'm trying to start" with "I am building." Replace "I hope to help" with "I help." Plain present tense verbs magnetize the right allies and set your nervous system to act accordingly. Calendar: color code blocks that directly create value: client delivery, building, selling, learning. If your week is 80% gray, miscellaneous, and 20% color value, invert it over the next 8 weeks by increments. Protect 2 90-minute blocks daily where your phone is in another room and your email is closed. These are non-negotiable appointments. With your dream, cash. Allocate a small, steady budget to your dream. Tools, coaching, childcare swaps, design help. Money is frozen in tension. Where you put it reveals what you're actually committed to. You don't need huge sums. Need steady, visible investment so your system takes your commitment seriously. Watch how coherence changes conversations. A spouse who is skeptical becomes supportive when they see that your words line up with disciplined time and modest strategic spending. Prospects feel safety when your language, responsiveness, and follow-through match. You feel lighter because you're no longer managing a secret double life: one set of promises for yourself, another for the world. If you hit turbulence, check for micro-incoherences. Are you accepting meetings that flatter the ego but drain the mission? Are you binge-consuming content that parades as research while your own output starves? Correction is simple. Redeclare in speech. Reblock the calendar. Relocate the cash. 3 levers, 1 intention. Do this long enough and others will say you're lucky. Nothing mystical happened. Coherence gave you compound interest in trust, time, and money. That compound interest is enough to carry most dreams from private wish to public good. A beautiful shift dies without maintenance. The mind forgets. The world is noisy. Wholeness requires a daily reset that's short enough to keep and strong enough to matter. Here's a 20-minute practice designed for real lives. Minutes 0 to 3. Settle, sit, breathe normally. Feel your feet. Let the body arrive before the mind performs. Whisper, "I'm here." Minutes 3 to 6. Mind proprioception, with eyes closed. Feel the movement of thought. Label the dominant texture: rushing, planning, doubting. Don't fix name. Minutes 6 to 9. Meaning sentence. Read your one sentence, meaning aloud. Ask, what one action today expresses this? Write the answer on a card you'll see at noon. Minutes 9 to 12. Microbridge block. Identify the day's reliable unit. Schedule its trigger time, place, and reward. Visualize yourself performing the first 30 seconds. Minutes 12 to 15. Triple check. Adjust one sentence you will say, today's speech. One calendar block time, one $20 $50 investment, or saving choice cash to increase coherence. Minutes 15 to 18. Suspension rehearsal. Pick one assumption to suspend. Today about yourself or someone you'll meet. Draft a single question you'll ask instead of arguing. Minutes 18 to 20. Gratitude for reality. Thank reality for one signal it gave you yesterday, pleasant or not, and state your experiment for today. That's it. No heroics, no grand vows. 20 minutes that organize attention, meaning, action, and feedback. When you repeat this practice for 30 days, you'll notice the gap can't reassemble itself. The mind will try old stories, will visit, but you'll greet them with a smile and a structure. You'll be too busy building microbridges, reading reality, and aligning your life's infrastructure to indulge the old drama. A final word. The mature path is not about proving anyone wrong, including your past self. It's about building something so right that arguments become irrelevant. The shift is simple, not trivial. See thought's wall move from fragment to whole. Feel mind in motion. Suspend instead of defend. Let meaning organize action. Build microbridges. Dialogue with reality. Live in coherence and keep the field clear daily. Do this and you won't chase your dream. You'll stand where it stands in, invite it to unfold through you.